We knew that Mario Kart World far outstripped Sonic Racing Crossworlds in relevancy. The internet kind of was in denial about it. It was kind of like the Power World versus Pokemon thing, where the internet was trying to convince you that this irrelevant knockoff brand was somehow superior to the Nintendo one, right? We were screamed at and told that Power World was perfectly normal, that there was nothing wrong with it, and that it was the greatest game ever made, only for Nintendo to file their lawsuit and completely make the game irrelevant. The Sonic Crossworlds thing was much the same level of quality. It was just Mario Kart with Sonic characters, and people seriously tried gassing it up as if it was like some major competitor, that it was going to do gangbusters, that it was going to be bigger and better than what Nintendo did. Didn't happen. Okay, that game was completely stomped right out of the gate. And what's interesting about it is that not only did Sonic Racing Crossworlds just completely come out like a wet fart, it died, like the entire attempts at trying to gas this thing up and say that, like, well, a million is quite a lot of units sold, guys. Like, all of that just completely fell flat. The game is dead. Okay. All the attempts at ignoring things like the $30 DLC and just the wonky gameplay and the fact that Sonic is a dead IP that no one cares about. All of that has just completely imploded to establish one of the biggest falls from graces in video game history. Sonic the Hedgehog, someone who was supposed to be on par with Mario, has finally gone head to head with him in multiple ways, with Sonic Superstars, with Sonic Racing Crossworlds, with Sonic Lost World, and every single time he has lost. And it has become a trend that's become palpable, that really needs to be addressed, is that Sonic is a completely irrelevant character that nobody but 90s kids cares about. Like, it was never good. It was never relevant. Sonic was not a big deal. It was the Crash Bandicoot of the first half of the 90s. A completely irrelevant mascot character glazed up only to downplay Nintendo hardware. And that's been true since the very beginning. But what's interesting about Sonic Racing Crossworlds is not that it went up against Mario Kart and failed, because that's what happens every single time Sonic goes up against the Mario game. He can't keep up. He's running at full speed and Mario's already crossed the finish line. No, he's just too fast. Like, every single time Sonic has to deal with the fact that Mario is just better than him. Like, Mario's standing atop the mountain while, like, Sonic just somehow has just dug himself into like a pit that can't be climbed out of. Okay, that's the difference in quality between Mario and Sonic. It is ridiculous how so many people seriously tried to advocate for this idea that Sonic could compete with Mario. But what's more, and what's interesting about this, is that people are beginning to notice. I pointed this out, but it does need to be bear repeating, is that Kirby is actually bigger than Sonic now. Kirby is a bigger IP worldwide. Kirby has better selling games, and Kirby had the better selling racing game. Kirby is at the point now where, instead of being seen as this B-string Nintendo IP, it has now gotten enough momentum behind it where I can honestly say that it is indeed bigger than Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, people don't realize, do you know how many girls I've seen over the past decade who have like a Kirby plush in their room? It's this shockingly common thing. It's something you see all the time now. It's like, people don't realize that Kirby is just this huge merchandisable thing, especially in Japan. Like, Kirby is stupidly popular, like stupidly so. And with Forgotten Land becoming the best-selling Kirby game ever, and like Air Riders being the huge hit it was, like we really do have to like acknowledge the fact that Kirby, the pink puffball, is bigger than Sonic the Hedgehog. You know, Kirby the Star Warrior is going around splitting planets in half, shooting out Kamehameha waves, you know, fighting all these like eldritch abominations, and Sonic's just like, he's just running. He's just running at like, I don't know, like 30 miles an hour. Like, he's just like, no, I'm fast, guys. Like, look at me, I'm so fast. And then meanwhile, like Kirby just speeds past him on the warp star, and then Rick the hamster just speeds past him on foot, and then like all the other air riders just come careening past him because Sonic isn't shit. Okay, Sonic is not a relevant video game character. We are at the point now where we are past the point where we can pretend that this brand has nostalgic value. It doesn't. You know, everyone who loved Sonic growing up are 40-year-old childless boomers now, and need to be denounced as just people who never grew up and never really acknowledged reality. Sonic is a dead brand. The only people gassing this IP up are terminally online weirdos like Chris Chan, Sega Classic Sonic, Sega Classic, Sammy Classic Sonic fan, people like that. You know, the top 10 hottest female Sonic characters guy. Like, these are all terminally online weirdos that have obsessed over Sonic their entire lives and will continue to do so until they die. Like, that is the Sonic the Hedgehog audience. It isn't serious gamers looking for a good time. It's people who just have this unhealthy parasocial fixation on this idea that Sonic is the hero and Mario is the enemy, that Nintendo must be destroyed. They are essentially a vocal minority. And that's what we saw with this situation. That's what we saw with Sonic Racing Crossworlds, is that everybody just sat there and tried to tell you that Sonic Racing Crossworlds was going to destroy Mario, and that would beat Mario Kart, and that would lead to the Switch 2 failing, and that would lead to Nintendo leaving the console space, and then Sega would release the Dreamcast 2, and then we would get, like, I don't know, like, good Sonic games again. Like, that was legit what people were saying. Not only did that not happen, Sonic Racing Crossworlds lost to Kirby. You know, Kirby is a bigger IP than Sonic now. After all that glazing, all that hype, you know, all that publicity, you know, all the trophies, all the game awards, all the game journos like glazing this thing, like, it all just completely collapsed in and around itself because Sonic has no brand identity outside of being Mario's rival, which never has been true. But fans act like it still is true, that Sonic has like a shot at like making the big leagues and being relevant again. And like, the simple reality is that like, it's just not going to happen. The reality is Sega is a dying brand. They're not competitive. Stuff like Crossworlds is a complete disaster. This game only got the attention it did because fans really thought that it could compete with Mario World, and it couldn't. You know, it was a complete and utter failure. You know, just like Sonic Superstars, just like Sonic Frontiers, just like Sonic Lost World, just like Sonic Boom, like all of Sega's attempts at trying to destroy Nintendo have ended in failure. And now we have like the gaming community, we really need to acknowledge that Sonic is a dead IP. That Crash Bandicoot is a dead IP, that none of these 90s mascot characters are relevant anymore. I don't want to hear about Mega Man or Banjo or Conker. It's over, okay? Nintendo cleared all of them, and they are continuing to innovate long after every single one of these irrelevant mascot characters from the 90s are done and dusted.